In 1972, Stanford psychologist Walter Mischel ran an experiment that became one of the most cited studies in behavioral science. A child is placed in a room with a marshmallow on the table. The researcher tells the child, "If you can wait 15 minutes without eating the marshmallow, you'll get 2 marshmallows when I come back." Then the researcher leaves. Some kids ate the marshmallow immediately. Some waited. And in the follow-up studies conducted over the next decades, the children who waited showed, on average, better academic achievement, higher SAT scores, lower rates of substance abuse, and significantly better financial outcomes as adults. The financial advice community latched onto this research as proof of something they already believed. Delayed gratification is the key to wealth, and people who are successful are simply better at it than people who aren't. It validated a narrative that connected financial outcomes to personal virtue, specifically the virtue of self-control. There's only one problem with this interpretation. It's wrong. And the way it's wrong has enormous implications for how you actually build the ability to wait. Subscribe before we go into this. New video every week. Let's pull this apart. First, the problem with the marshmallow study's original interpretation. Subsequent research, including a major 2018 study from NYU and UC Irvine that replicated the marshmallow test with a much larger, more representative sample, found that the predictive power of marshmallow waiting behavior was almost entirely explained by socioeconomic background. Children from higher income, more stable family environments waited longer. Children from lower income, less stable environments waited less often. This is not because wealthy children have more willpower. It is because the decision to wait is rational only in an environment where waiting is reliably rewarded. If you grow up in an environment where promised rewards frequently don't materialize, because resources are unpredictable, because adults are unreliable, because the second marshmallow might not appear, eating the marshmallow now is the rational choice. It's the intelligent choice. It correctly models the probability that the future promise will be fulfilled. Delayed gratification is not a character trait. It is a learned prediction about the relationship between present sacrifice and future reward. And that prediction is shaped, heavily, measurably, by the environments children grow up in. The ability to wait is downstream of the belief that waiting works. This reframe is not just philosophically interesting. It is practically critical. Because if delayed gratification is a learned prediction, it can be updated through experience. And if it can be updated, it can be built. Which means it is a skill, not a personality trait, and it can be developed deliberately. So how do you actually build the skill of delayed gratification? Because this is the part that nobody ever explains. Step 1. Establish a track record of your own reliability. The core ingredient in delayed gratification is trust. Specifically, trust that the future reward will actually arrive. The marshmallow waiting children trusted the researcher. Children who'd been lied to before did not. Your brain operates the same way with your own financial commitments. If you've set savings goals and abandoned them, set financial targets and missed them, started investment contributions and stopped them, your brain has learned a very specific thing. You don't follow through. And a brain that doesn't trust its own follow-through will not make sacrifices for a future reward it doesn't believe will arrive. It will eat the marshmallow. The intervention: start with commitments so small that failure is essentially impossible. Not, I'll save $500 a month. I'll save $25 a month. Not, I'll invest 15%. I'll invest 1%. Not, I'll pay off $10,000 in debt this year. I'll pay $50 extra on this debt this month. These commitments feel almost insultingly small. That's the point. Your brain doesn't care about the size of the commitment, it cares about the completion of it. Every completed small commitment is a data point that you do what you say. Accumulate enough data points and the brain starts to believe in future rewards, because it's seen you deliver them before. Step 2. Shrink the distance to the reward. Delayed gratification becomes significantly easier when the delay is shorter. This sounds obvious but has profound practical implications for financial goal design. A $100,000 retirement goal 30 years away requires an enormous act of faith from a brain that discounts the future heavily. A $2,000 emergency fund goal 4 months away requires a much smaller act of faith. A $500 milestone check-in next month requires almost none. The financial planning community typically presents long-term goals, retirement, financial independence, a paid-off house, as the primary targets. And they are, ultimately. But designing an entire financial motivation structure around 30-year goals is like trying to motivate yourself by looking at a mountain that's 12 miles away. You need checkpoints, camps, intermediate ridgelines that feel achievable and provide evidence of progress. Every financial goal should be broken into a sequence of achievable milestones. Milestones close enough that the reward timeline is short enough for your brain to engage with it. $2,000 emergency fund, $5,000 emergency fund, max this year's Roth IRA, first $10,000 invested. Each milestone is concrete, achievable in months not decades, and provides a reward signal that reinforces the saving behavior. If this framework is giving you a new way to structure your financial goals, subscribe. I put this out every week and it's designed to be actionable. Hit the button. Step 3. Make the present sacrifice feel less like sacrifice. Delayed gratification is usually framed as denial, you're giving up something now. But psychologically, reframing it as an investment rather than a sacrifice changes the emotional calculus significantly. I'm not buying this $300 thing is a denial frame. I'm investing this $300 toward my $2,000 emergency fund is an investment frame. Same behavior. Different emotional register. The investment frame activates a different set of neural responses. It connects the behavior to a goal-approaching signal rather than a loss signal. And goal-approaching feels fundamentally different from loss. Research from behavioral economics consistently shows that investment framing produces more sustained savings behavior than sacrifice framing. Not because the framing changes the math, it doesn't, but because the emotional experience of the behavior is different, which changes its sustainability. You can also reduce the perceived sacrifice by identifying consumption substitutes, alternatives that provide similar emotional satisfaction at lower cost. This is not about deprivation. It's about recognizing that much of consumption is about the emotional state it produces, not the specific product. A dinner at home with friends produces comparable social satisfaction to a restaurant dinner at 15% of the cost. A library book produces comparable intellectual stimulation to a purchased book at zero cost. A well-curated home workout produces comparable physical benefit to a gym membership. Step 4. Create external commitment devices. Your brain's in-the-moment preferences will frequently conflict with your delayed gratification goals. This is called temporal inconsistency, and it's universal. The person who goes to bed intending to save $500 from next month's paycheck is genuinely intending to save it. The person who wakes up to the paycheck and sees $500 available to spend faces a completely different set of immediate preferences. External commitment devices resolve temporal inconsistency by removing the in-the-moment decision. Automatic savings transfers are a commitment device. You make the decision once when intention aligns with preference, and the decision executes automatically on days when preference might differ. The moment of decision is moved to the moment of alignment. Other commitment devices, a separate hard-to-access savings account at a different bank, friction between intention and access. A savings challenge with a friend, social accountability. A visual progress tracker for a specific goal, milestone proximity signal. A pre-commitment contract with yourself, witnessed by someone who will hold you accountable. The research on commitment devices is extensive and consistent. They work dramatically. Individuals who use commitment devices to pre-commit future behavior show significantly higher rates of goal achievement than those relying on in-the-moment willpower. Richard Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi's Save More Tomorrow program, which pre-committed workers' future raises to retirement contributions, increased savings rates by 300% over 3 years. Not by making people more disciplined. By pre-committing their decisions before the moment of choice arrived. Step 5. Build a present identity as a saver, not a future identity as someone who has saved. This is subtle but important. Most financial motivation systems try to connect present sacrifice to a future self. You're saving for the future you who will be comfortable, free, wealthy. This future orientation has a problem. The future self feels like a different person. Research by Hal Ersner-Harshfield at Stanford used brain imaging to show that most people's neural response to their future self is similar to their neural response to a stranger, not to themselves. You don't feel motivated to sacrifice for strangers. The more effective identity connection is present tense. You're not sacrificing for your future self. You're being the kind of person who saves, right now. Every contribution is an act of present identity expression, not a gift to a distant stranger. When you save $25 this week, you don't think future me will benefit. You think, I am a person who saves. That present identity becomes a behavioral anchor. Identity-based behaviors are more resilient to disruption than goal-based behaviors. They survive difficult months, income disruptions, and motivational fluctuations that derail goal-based approaches. Here's the synthesis. Delayed gratification is not a virtue you either have or don't have. It is a prediction your brain makes about whether waiting will be rewarded, shaped by environment, track record, and the reliability of the future you're sacrificing for. And because it's a prediction, it's updatable. Because it's updatable, it's buildable. Because it's buildable, it's a skill. The skill-building process. Establish a reliability track record with small completed commitments. Shrink the delay by building milestone sequences. Reframe sacrifice as investment. Create commitment devices that remove in-the-moment decision points. Build a present saver identity rather than a future reward orientation. None of this requires becoming a fundamentally different person. It requires understanding that you're not fighting a character flaw. You're training a prediction. And predictions change with evidence. Subscribe and drop a comment. Which step in this process is hardest for you right now? I genuinely read these.